Hey, I'm Broxy and today we're testing the new KX250F out at my track here in Tauranga. For 2013, Kawasaki have come up with revamp on their 250 and they've made some pretty big changes. The biggest one, I guess, is how the frame works and how skinny it is, and of course that changes its looks and everything as well. I'm not sure if I quite like the thickness of the black bit down on the tank there, but apart from that, I love the feeling of it. As soon as I hopped on a bike, it was actually at Woodhill, and I found that it just felt really light. Apparently the weight is pretty similar to last year, but it just has that feeling. I don't know whether it has anything to do with the setup up near the handlebars, but it just feels like a 125. Out on that track there, I just felt like I could attack those corners and especially the braking and everything, because it just, every time that you ride a bike that's lighter than you're expecting, you can push it harder, even if it's not actually lighter. That's probably the biggest thing that I noticed straight away. The second biggest thing that was really obvious was the second injector. This one here has a double injector on it. Apparently that helps with pumping more fuel in, partly for the bottom end power, and the injection has a different injector for up top. Man, this thing screams. There's a triple on my track there that I reserve for fast 250 bikes. There's not a standard 250F that I really feel comfortable jumping it on because I'm going to go splat otherwise, but this is the first time that I've actually hit that triple comfortably on a dead standard 250F. It happened quite early because I felt quite confident in the power. Not so much the mid-range power or the bottom end or anything. Those things, they're nice. But when you're on a smaller cc capacity bike, it's the top end that really matters. You know, like if you've got more horsepower, then that's where you're gonna use that. And that's what this thing has up top. It revs out and it keeps pulling. And I felt comfortable third gear wide open up that hill. And the first time I cleared it, I jumped bigger than I'd been doing on my 450, just because I gave it a bit more oosh and pulled it up and got over quite easily. The cool thing about this bike also is it's got the different clips that you can set, for, just like the 2012 450 came out on the Kawasaki, which means you've got a soft setting and you've got a normal setting and a hard. Something I found really interesting was that there's no actual change in the actual clips that you're setting in there. There's no chip, there's nothing in there except slightly different placed prongs. The computer reads that. I don't know how effective it is on the 250F. But the thing is that those clips that you put in, each one of those is adjustable. So if you want to do your own kind of setup with your laptop, then you can change how you want the hard pack setting, and you could have like a backflip setting, for example. And then instead of the soft setting, you could do something like a sort of a burble kind of sound, you know. It's really adjustable how you like it, and being able to do it at the track without a computer, that's the beauty of this system. The mid-range power on this bike, when you've got the normal clip in there, it really goes, and it's got that kind of a grunt, that kind of a hit that you do want, but it is really linear power. It just gets slightly more grunty, obviously, the higher you go, but it makes it easy to ride out of the corners. The brakes, good. The back brake almost feels too good. It's just really strong. Front brake, partly combined maybe with how light it feels. It really pulls it up really fast. Handlebars, sort of the skinny, they're not the fat type of bars. Foot pegs, they're not exactly the most wide setting ones that you've got possible, but they definitely have a good shield underneath the foot pegs there. There was a lot of times that I was digging it right into the ruts. It would sit up for a second because it was just like whole masses of dirt in there, but I'd just kick it, it would all fall out, and she was all good again. Another thing that I noticed on this bike is it's really easy to start. Any junior riders out there, they're going to be quite happy to have to pick it up, and especially when you're tired and there's steam puffing out your helmet. I don't know if you noticed, but before I could actually start it just by hand. It's a really nice, easy stroke. Another thing on the 2013, they've got a power bomb on the header pipe. That's a really cool thing to have, and it obviously works. This is one of the more grunty 250Fs I've ever ridden. And then of course the clutch, when it was cold, it had a funny little jerk when I was first riding it away, but out on the track, yeah, I couldn't fault it. For a couple of years now, Kawasaki have come out with these special forks, and they got a spring, big heavy spring on one side, and the compression and dampening all on the other fork. So we had a bit of a play today. We noticed that on one side it's got the compression clickers and the rebound on the bottom, just like you'd normally find, and we mucked around with that. But then on the other side it's got a preload setting on the top. I found that the forks are a little bit soft for me, so we went a couple of clicks on the compression, didn't change much. Went to the preload side, and then went a few clicks harder on the preload, which is effectively stiffening up the spring just like you do on your shock, and so it's going to sit a little bit higher. I think we found the mother load. I found that the bike, it definitely sat higher in the stroke, and it just handled really nice into those corners and into those ruts. Just to check that we weren't just fooling ourselves, we went another couple of clicks harder, and I found that the bike felt too twitchy, and I didn't really like that either. So going back to that preload adjustment that we found in the middle, and it was seriously good and really easy to adjust, and quite effective. So I highly recommend those forks. It was really good. So if you're interested in the Kawasaki 250F 2013 model, you'll be able to find yourself one down at your local dealer. I think the price $13,250, and you'd have yourself basically a race reading machine.